Party peoples of the interweb, Rumble's CEO Chris Pavlovski is quickly going to become a wanted man in Brazil. Viva Frei, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida Rumbler, in my home office on a beautiful Florida afternoon, getting ready for the Sunday show, Viva and Barnes Law for the People. Some of you might not know what is going on with Rumble in Brazil because it's rather wild. I say this tongue-in-cheek, but I don't think it's safe for Chris Pavlovski, Rumble's CEO, to travel to Brazil anymore, and I dare say that when he's traveling to Argentina, he'd better make sure that the plane doesn't make an unplanned stop in Brasilia because he might be a wanted man in Brazil. Where does this all start? It starts with a man who is a villain of cartoonish proportions, Alexander de Moraes, the chief judge or one of the controlling judges on Brazil's Supreme Court. If you don't know who Alexander de Moraes is yet, I'm not joking when I say this. He looks like a cartoon villain out of an Austin Powers movie. I think he dresses like a cartoon villain because he has so much power, he knows he can dress like a villain and get away with it. This man arguably controls all of Brazil, and he arguably exercises an iron fist of censorship and suppression of information under the pretext of misinformation and disinformation, because after all, when there's misinformation and disinformation on the internet, you need the government and the courts to tell you what you can and cannot listen to. Now, free speech has been under attack for quite some time in Brazil. We all know what happened to Twitter, where Twitter and its employees were threatened with jail and prosecution in Brazil if they didn't shut down some of these Brazilian accounts that de Moraes wanted to suppress and yeet from the internet. And after a bit of a fight, Elon and X, and I say this with no shade or criticism, they made the decision to censor the accounts to pay the fines that the courts imposed on Twitter so they could resume operations in Brazil. And Chris Pavlovski of Rumble said, no, we're not taking that route. We will just not do business in Brazil. But apparently that's not enough, and they're coming after the content creators in America, such that Rumble has had to file a lawsuit against de Moraes in America to prevent the censorship of accounts in America from being censored in Brazil. Now, we will get into that lawsuit in a second, and we will get into how de Moraes, who is the judge now, who had actually very little judicial experience, although he was a prosecutor, how he ended up in charge of that court under very suspicious circumstances. It's a wonderful little Easter egg that Rumble put in their lawsuit. But before we even get there, breaking news, Rumble had to file an emergency motion for a TRO, a temporary restraining order, to prevent de Moraes from doing what he wants to do, and this is as reported in Yahoo News. Rumble and Trump Media file motion in U.S. court over decision by Brazilian judge, and there you have the evil judge de Moraes. Brazil's Supreme Court judge Alexander de Moraes attends a session of the Supreme Court in Brasilia. From the article, the motion seeks to stop orders issued by the judge as they said Moraes rulings, quote, violate American sovereignty, the U.S. Constitution, and U.S. laws, end quote. In the statement, the firms said that Moraes threatened criminal charges against Rumble's CEO, Chris Pavlovski. Moraes, who also led the country's tussle with Elon Musk's X, ordered the suspension of service for Rumble until the firm names a legal representative for Brazil, as law requires foreign companies to have one to operate locally. Appreciate this. Rumble is actually not doing business in Brazil, but Brazil, and this judge wants Rumble to appoint a legal representative in Brazil so that Brazil has someone to jail when Rumble doesn't comply with these unconstitutional orders. And the object of the order, the person they want suppressed on the internet who happens to reside in America now, is a Bolsonaro supporter. Bolsonaro is the president who lost the election to Lula in the last election. They want his account censored, and this is what the article describes about that. Dos Santos, who currently lives in the United States, is considered a fugitive in Brazil and is under investigation over alleged hate speech and spreading false information. Moraes has spearheaded a crusade on perceived attacks on democracy and political use of disinformation, particularly under the Bolsonaro government, drawing ire from those such as ex-owner Musk in the process. All right, so that is the broader context, the lay of the land, so you understand what's going on right now. They made a request for a TRO in the context of the lawsuit we're going to read right now, which is Rumble's lawsuit filed in the District of Florida. It's filed in a good district. United States District Court, Middle District of Florida, Tampa Division, Rumble Inc. and Trump Media and Technology Group Corp. Plaintiffs versus Alexander de Moraes, Justice of the Supreme Federal Tribunal of the Federative Republic of Brazil, defendant. Plaintiffs Rumble Inc., Rumble, and Trump Media and Technology Group Corp., TMTG, together, the plaintiffs, bring this action against Alexander de Moraes, Justice of the Supreme Federal Tribunal of the Federative Republic of Brazil, Justice Moraes, and in support state as follows. Paragraph 3, the gag orders as issued censor legitimate political discourse in the United States, undermining fundamental constitutional protections protections enshrined in the First Amendment, clashing with the Communications Decency Act and defying basic comedy principles. The gag orders further require Rumble, a Florida-based company with no personnel or assets in Brazil, to designate a legal representative in Brazil solely for the purpose of accepting service of the gag orders and submitting to Justice Moraes' authority.
Let's take a quick break from this vlog for a word from our sponsor, The Wellness Company. With Elon Musk's dedication to Doge, he will likely uncover the hidden spending on weather modification, which might have played a role in the major decline in people's health. The influx of sickness taking over America is not natural. We've all seen the trails in the sky and most recently the bizarre fogs that are now proven to have the Serratia marcescens bacteria in the samples tested. With the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit, you can tackle serious health concerns to avoid hospitalization or until you can see a doctor. This compact blue case is your portable urgent care stocked with ivermectin, Z-Pak, amoxicillin, and 6 other essential prescription medications right at your fingertips. You can literally order from your couch in minutes. The process is fully digital. Their medical board created a guidebook that outlines common treatments for UTIs, strep throat, bacterial infections, respiratory illness, and more. All it takes is filling out a digital intake form, and within 1 to 2 weeks, your kit arrives at your front door. Don't let your illness catch you off guard. Order your kit now by heading over to twc.health/Viva. The promo code will get you $30 off and free shipping. That is twc.health/Viva for $30 off and free shipping. Kits are only available in the United States. And now back to the vlog.
All right, so the 30,000-foot overview is that Rumble and Truth Media are looking for a declaratory judgment, injunctive relief, a permanent injunction declaring the orders of Moraes to be unconstitutional, violative of American law, that a foreign government cannot bypass the legal and legislative procedures already in place to issue these gag orders that are basically issued in a suppressed environment to begin with. So they want a declaratory judgment. Now they're seeking an emergency TRO because de Moraes is issuing these rulings in the darkness of Brazilian democracy. But this is the Easter egg that I said they left in their lawsuit as to how de Moraes ascended to power in the first place. And by the way, it's going to open up a little latch to a rabbit hole that is a very, very dark, dirty rabbit hole. That sounds really gross. Paragraph 24. In 2017, Justice Moraes ascended to the STF, that's the court, following a plane crash that killed his predecessor, Justice Thierry Zavesky. Justice Zavesky had been presiding over Operation Car Wash, Lava Jato, a multi-billion-dollar investigation central to Brazil's anti-corruption drive. Although Justice Moraes had no prior experience serving as a judge, the Brazilian Senate confirmed his appointment on February 22nd, 2017, and he was sworn in the following month. You want to go down a deep, dark rabbit hole? Look up Operation Car Wash. What was going on there? You had judges investigating corruption at all levels of the Brazilian corporations, government, corruption that you cannot possibly imagine. And as this judge was investigating, reading the 77 affidavits in support of this investigation into various politicians, his plane crashed and he died. But they investigated it and they concluded that it was not foul play whatsoever. And then Justice de Moraes comes into power. Lula becomes president again. And I'm sure there's nothing to see here, folks. On with the show. Later on in the filing, Rumble alleges as follows at paragraph 32, I think. Oh crap, it was paragraph 33. In October 2022, Elon Musk purchased X, promising more open moderation than under its prior management. This clashed directly with Justice Moraes' demands to remove accounts he labeled, quote, anti-democratic, end quote. Almost immediately after Musk's takeover, Justice Moraes imposed sealed orders demanding the removal of accounts with tight compliance deadlines and thousands in daily fines. Musk denounced these demands as an abuse of power and infringement on free speech, vowing that X would only remove posts clearly violating U.S. law. In response, Justice Moraes threatened X's Brazilian legal representative with arrest and ordered the platform blocked nationwide. Musk faced a criminal investigation for alleged obstruction of justice after refusing to comply. Paragraph 35, X eventually yielded, paying around $5 million US in fines so Brazilians could regain access to the platform. So Justice de Moraes is issuing these orders to censor, remove accounts for no apparently good reason, but he calls it misinformation, disinformation, attacking democracy. Does that sound familiar, everybody? And unlike X, and there's no shade here, Chris Pavlovsky is doing it a different way. He is simply saying no, and de Moraes is saying you're going to do it, and you're going to hire a legal representative in Brazil so that we have someone to put in jail. No, this is not what Rumble is doing, and Rumble is suing now in Florida to declare these orders patently unconstitutional and unlawful and basically violating all procedure and legislative means that exist to carry out these types of measures in the first place. Paragraph 56, the gag orders also do not limit their scope to Brazilian audiences. They impose a complete ban on political dissident A's content, regardless of geographic reach or the lawful nature of the commentary under American free speech standards. The gag orders demand that Rumble, from its Florida-based headquarters and without any Brazil operations, enforce a universal ban on the targeted accounts, imposing a total blackout that extends even to U.S. users. Paragraph 57, the gag orders also require Rumble, a U.S.-based company with no presence or operations in Brazil, to appoint local attorneys solely for the purpose of accepting service of Justice Moraes' censorship mandates and the corresponding penalties, and to otherwise fall under the authority of Justice Moraes. And then to get to how Justice Moraes, even if he had the right to do what he's doing in the first place, how he's bypassing existing means to do what he wants to do just by declaring it willy-nilly in the darkness of those courts. He is bypassing existing legislative means to do what he wants to do, clearly because he knows he has no right to do it in the first place. Paragraph 61, Justice Moraes' ultra-virus actions to bypass the MLAT, the Hague Service Convention, and the traditional letters rogatory process were not accidental or inadvertent but deliberate and calculated. Justice Moraes is a highly sophisticated jurist who has used these legal mechanisms dozens of times. These mechanisms provide well-established, internationally recognized framework for addressing cross-border legal matters, ensuring that requests from foreign judicial authorities are reviewed for compliance with the laws and constitutional protections of the receiving nation. By intentionally circumventing all three frameworks, Justice Moraes demonstrated a clear understanding that his overbroad, vague, and extraterritorial demands would not survive scrutiny under any lawful process. Paragraph 78, plaintiffs respectfully submit that this court reject the enforceability of Justice Moraes' orders on the grounds that they were issued and attempted to be enforced in violation of established legal mechanisms, in breach of U.S. sovereignty, in violation of U.S. laws, and in a manner incompatible with U.S. public policy. And then your prayer for relief. Wherefore Rumble and TMTG pray for judgment against Justice Moraes as follows. 1. Declare that the gag orders are unenforceable in the United States as inconsistent with the First Amendment, the Communications Decency Act, Florida law, and U.S. and Florida public policy. 2. Issue judgment in Rumble's and TMTG's favor and against Justice Moraes on all causes of action alleged herein. 3. Grant Rumble and TMTG injunctive relief enjoining enforcement of the gag orders in the United States. 4. Enjoin Justice Moraes from compelling any third party, such as Apple, Google, and any persons or entities acting at their discretion, to remove or delist or threaten to remove or delist the quote Rumble end quote application or any other applications from their respective app stores in the United States to the extent such action is taken in compliance with or for the purpose of enforcing the gag orders. And 5, grant such other and further relief as the court may deem to be just and proper. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, make sure that you've gone down there and taken 5 seconds to make sure that you're subscribed, that you have notifications turned on. Share the channel, it helps it grow. But that is the lawsuit. Chris Pavlovsky is a man who walks the walk and talks the talk. I just hope he had no travel plans in the near future to Brazil, because I would stay out of that country, I don't know, for the next decade or so, or at least until Moraes is impeached. May that day come sooner than later. But that is the lawsuit. If you like what I do, you know what to do. Most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know you vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah! Oh my goodness, I almost forgot to mention, just a footnote to this vlog, call it a coincidence if you believe there can be these types of coincidences under such circumstances. Within a day or two of Rumble Pavlovsky's lawsuit against Moraes, he nuked his entire X account. His account is gone. You go to @Alexander, gone. The public explanation he gave is that he hadn't used it in a year or so. It was useless to him, about time he deleted it. I might be inclined to think that there could potentially have been incriminating or at least evidentiary relevant text messages, DMs in his account, but it's nuked. I presume that there are backups that X has such that if there was such evidence in there, it will not be lost to the digital ether. But draw whatever conclusions you want. Within a day or two of Rumble's lawsuit, Moraes, the judge, Dr. Evil himself, nuked his Twitter account. That is the end of this vlog. Now you go. Peace out.